Today, we've witnessed two very different visions from the podium, one filled with bluster and self-congratulation, the other just delivered by President Erdogan of Turkey, that was as raw as it was relentless. His words cut through the air of this assembly like a blade. He began, and it's his second speech, really in a day. He began not with pleasantries, but with a wound. Why is President Mahmoud Abbas not here? Why, at a moment when Palestine is finally being recognized by a growing number of nations, is its own president absent from the hall? The answer, he declared, is shameful because the United States denied him a visa. President Trump denied him a visa. Think of the enormity of that. The United Nations was founded to give voices to the voiceless, to bring every nation, great or small, into one chamber, and yet the leader of a people under occupation, under bombardment, under daily humiliation is not permitted to stand in the chamber and speak. Erdogan called this what it is, an insult and humiliation and a shocking abuse of power by Washington, by Trump. How can we pretend to deliberate on peace when a key part of the conflict is locked outside the door? And from there, Erdogan shifted his fire to everyone. He told the assembly plainly that silence is complicity. He didn't mince words. Every government that looks away from Gaza, every delegate who wrings their hands but takes no action is, in his words, an accomplice to barbarity. He held up photos. Women clutching empty cups, children without arms or legs, bodies under rubble. He asked a piercing question. Is there any justification for this shameful image? Can any conscience explain away the deliberate destruction of hospitals, the amputation of children's limbs without anaesthetic, the deliberate starvation of 2.5 million people? Erdogan didn't say that silence was weakness. He said it was collaboration. He didn't say silence was apathy. He said it was betrayal. Betrayal of the Palestinians. Betrayal of the charter signed 80 years ago in San Francisco. Betrayal of the very idea that international law might protect the innocent. He accused the so-called civilized world of watching genocide live streamed, broadcast to our phones, and still choosing inaction. He named the numbers: 65,000 dead in Gaza, 20,000 children, a child killed every single hour. And then he added the unanswerable moral indictment: if your own child's hand is pricked by a rose thorn, your heart breaks. Yet in Gaza, children's arms and legs are amputated without anaesthetic, and you remain silent. That, he said, is the lowest point of humanity. And so his address became more than a denunciation of Israel. It was a denunciation of the world's failure to resist. Silence, he thundered, doesn't absolve, it condemns. It makes you a partner. It stains your hands as surely as the hands that dropped the bombs. And make no mistake, this was not empty theatre. Erdogan was deliberately turning this assembly's gaze upon itself. He was forcing leaders to confront the hypocrisy of invoking international peace and security while blocking a Palestinian president from attending, while muttering about proportionality as children die every hour. Erdogan's rhetoric rose into something larger. It was deeply impressive, a warning that this complicity corrodes the very foundations of the international order. If the UN cannot protect its own staff, if it cannot admit the representatives of an oppressed people, if it cannot restrain a state that flouts every law of war, then what is left of the promises made in 1945? He named the silence of leaders for what it is, the quiet music of complicity, and he contrasted it with the noise outside the chamber, the millions marching in streets from London to Jakarta, from Washington to Cape Town, ordinary citizens, unarmed, unpaid, who understand that to be silent is to be guilty. If Trump's speech was a theatre of mockery, Erdogan's was the theatre of conscience, and his closing words rang like a gavel striking the hall. Today is the day to stand firm alongside the oppressed Palestinians and alongside humanity. Everyone who remains silent is an accomplice to this barbarity. This is why his denunciation of the denial of Abbas's visa is not a side note, it was the perfect metaphor. The Palestinian president was silenced at the very moment his people are silenced. And silence, Erdogan told us, is never neutral. It is always a choice. So the question he placed before the assembly, before the UN assembly, is not abstract, it's brutally simple. When children are dying every hour, when presidents are barred from speaking, when silence becomes complicity, what do we choose?